Hey, this is my KAT. I'm looking around YouTube, don't see a lot of information, a lot of videos on KAT engine bays. Maybe want to just go through a couple things, how I have mine set up, my bottom mount T25 setup. And a quick shout out to the KA24DET, KA24DE Facebook page. It's actually my favorite page. Lots of good info there. I'm going to be posting this video there and kind of just go over how mine's set up. Everyone's a little different. I'm not an expert by any means, but I'll go through some of the common questions people have and how mine's set up, and you know, just so you can see it. I'm going to start on the right side, right over to my turbo manifold. Recently, just put this in, this Tomei. I had the ISR tubular one in first. Decided to go Tomei. I just like how it looks a little better. I'm happy with it. I think I get a little more spool out of it. So the turning manifold took a little bit of time to get it on. It's a little lower than the ISR one. So I did need to grind out the motor mount, and also I needed to add a 90-degree oil sending T, just because how the tubular was, or you could wrap it around, but since this is a little more compact, I need to tee that, but no big deal. But I didn't realize I had to trim away the motor mount until after the fact, but again, no big deal. So yep, bottom mount T25. I know most guys are T3 top mount. Very cool. You can see the turbo. They probably do get more power than I do, but I kind of like the OE look, and that's kind of looking to go a little smaller. I do a lot of autocross, do a lot of track days, so I was looking for a little more quicker spool, a little more low end. I've been happy with it. I run 10 pounds right now off a Garrett Gt2871r. I started with the T28 from a SR20, a ball bearing Garrett 2560R, and that was fine. I got about 260, 270 horse out of it. And then I just found a good deal on the 2871R. I went there, moved over, and I think it flows a little better. But I don't do that. I don't push that much boost like a lot of guys do. I just push about 10 pounds. So I know I might not be in the efficiency range, but I like it. But I think the best improvement that I've done is the turbine side, the hot side. I moved it from the 64 to 86 AR. And I really think that's the best improvement. It's a lot of better flow, and it feels more, like NA, it feels like it flows better. It's not like chalked up, the higher displacement. So, and it flows better at the top end. So I'm really happy with the 86 back end. I really suggest it. Actually, I would have liked to see the 2560 with 86 back end, since I had that first. But anyway, I'm happy with it. That's how I know the ISR kit comes with their own turbo, and that's about the same size. It's journal, not ball bearing, but I'm happy with the Garrett turbos. You can see it down there. This is actually the HKS one, not an HKS actuator. I think the trim's a little different. I'm not sure what that means. I know what trim means, but I don't know how it differs from the regular Garrett, the propeller. But there's the actuator turbo. I have a turbo blanket on it. I have it at 10 pounds. Here you can see the intake. I'll get into that in a second, because I do route my PCV, my valve, and my blow-off valve into the intake. I'm pretty sure this is OE, SR20. This is the PCV valve. I actually run across the front of the motor. And down here, actually, there's some discussion about the fuel tank lines when you get rid of the charcoal box. A lot of people, they cap them off, or they tie them together, they route them together. I decided to route it into some vacuum into my intake. As you'll see, I like everything closed off. I don't like anything open. So it's actually just teed into my PCV, into the intake. Honestly, I'm not quite sure if it does anything, because when I do open up the gas tank, sometimes you hear the pressure releasing. But whatever. PCV, this is the low valve tube. You can see this is my tile. Because it's MAF, we'll get into that. You can see I have the Z32 MAF. I have a Martin RS enthalpy tune. It's very good. I'm very happy with it. He's a great guy. I would go standalone only just to get rid of the MAF and go MAP. A lot of people talk about how they're, you know, they're finicky. But back to the PCV, it's probably one of the most asked questions, right? So everyone knows the we have the valve off the valve cover, the vent off the valve cover. I actually have it teed to the PCV on the front case right down there. It's teed back here, and then there's the tee, and then to a catch can. I have a smaller catch can. Actually, I don't have any material in there. I probably should, but it's teed into here, and then it goes off back into the intake where it sees vacuum. It's, you know, there's a lot of discussion around it. It very well can introduce oil to your turbo. I'm not that concerned about it. I prefer, just because of the vacuum, and I didn't want anything open. A lot of guys, they just put the valve cover to atmosphere, maybe with a filter, but then that gets full with oil because of blow by, and a lot of guys, it's just you get oil everywhere. Or you can just run it straight to the catch can, so one from the valve cover, one from PCV, but then you still need to run the catch can to atmosphere, because you can't have a closed loop. It would be pressurized. So you would just have a filter to atmosphere here, and that might fill with oil. So that's a common question. Another common question is blow-off valves, right? Guys run up to atmosphere, but then with the MAF, it's a little tricky because it reads that air that you just blew off, and that's when you hear a lot of people ask about when they floor it and then let off. That's when it, you know, it blows out. The MAF thinks there's air still going in, and then it stalls. But you prevent that by reintroducing that air by putting it back through, and it keeps it. Yeah, sure, everyone likes to do it because they like to hear the noise louder, but I mean, I don't really care about that. I have 3 mufflers on this thing. I don't care about noise. So this goes back in and actually keeps your turbine spooled, which is pretty cool. So we talked about the turbo, T2871R, ball bearing, Garrett, 86 hot side, 10 pounds of boost. Talked about the intake, Z32 MAF, blow-off valve, OE, intake with my PCV on vacuum. Obviously you see my hot side here. What else? And then you know, it would come down here to the front of the motor where you see my clutch fan. A lot of guys go electric. I might go one day, but it's kind of low on the list. I got the GK Tech fan. I did have to remove the AC fan. Yes, I do have AC. It's down there. I had to remove the auxiliary AC fan. I think it's between right here, just because the larger rad couldn't fit. But it's fine. Especially on the highways, it doesn't matter with the extra fan for the AC. And then coil rad, ISR lines. I'm in Florida, so I do run just distilled water with water wetter. Another discussion, how much coolant to run. A lot of guys say, oh, you need coolant for, you know, lubrication and corrosion. That might be all very well, but I think the water wetter does a good job. And I hate just working on the car, right? And you have to take this hose off or take the coolant lines off and on the turbo, and all of a sudden you have coolant everywhere. It's just easier when it's just water. And everyone knows it's a pain in the ass to burp the system. It takes, so here real quick, if you're gonna do coolant, jack the car up, the nose up as far as you can, loosen up the neck plug, get the air out as best you can. Just run it with a big filter on it. Don't use a small one. A big coolant filter. It's gonna take, it takes me like almost an hour, and it takes maybe 1 or 2 heat cycles. It takes time. You rev it, get all the air out. Back to coolant. Another question is, where do you run your coolant lines if you're ball bearing, if you're running coolant lines? I have, you know, it's the Garrett ball bearing, and I have one, they're both on the other side of the motor. The sender is right off the intake manifold. There's a great video on YouTube. that goes through the intake manifold. But here is the sender for the coolant. I think this was actually wrapped around the throttle body for cold weather. The throttle body comes with coolant lines just to help it from freezing up. But I don't really, I mean, I'm in Florida, it's not a problem. So I use that line, the existing line for my sender, and then make a new line for my return. The return is right there. The return actually goes to the heater core return to the pump. There's the heater core there, and there's the T. So that's probably a big question too. But so that's the turbo, that's that manifold, the coolant lines. We talked about the PCV, the blow-off valve, the coolant water, the radiator. There's my overflow tank. Right, everybody runs Gatorade bottle, whatever can, because the coolant's usually over here, right? Don't have space for that. I talked about my fan, E-fans, clutch fans. Probably most guys do electric fans, right? Talked about that. I have an ATI dampener down there somewhere. I put that on, happy with that. Intercooler, you know, the battery's in the back. I have an Optima battery. And there's my fuel pressure regulator. And, you know, all the vacuum lines, right? So the tile vacuum line, this goes to a nipple in the intake. And then you have here's your brakes. Here's your fuel pressure vacuum. So brake vacuum, fuel pressure vacuum. And then, let's see, 1, 2, yep, and 3. So, last but not least, we'll talk about the motor. I didn't really have it in the budget for forged internals, I know. Hindsight, it would have been nice, but I couldn't do it at the time. I bought the motor separately. As I was driving this, I was building the motor, and the machine shop told me I need to get new pistons. And I didn't want to do the DNJs, I heard those were garbage. So someone told me about Engine Tech, gave them a call. They source out their pistons. It's cast, it's not forged, but they were affordable. And I found out that they were actually deeper dish than OE. OE dish is -22. These were -26, and found out with some math, they're about a 9.0 compression instead of 9.5. So, you know, I put those in and been happy with them. I put those in, put a Tomei, 1.6 or 1.4 in the gasket, put some ARP studs in, and it's been running well. This is a S13 head. Actually, it's at my second head. I warped the first one. It's a long story. And but I've been happy with the motor. So right now, the only upgrade on the motor is really just the cams. I have BC 264s. I think I'm about 300 horsepower right now, I believe. Last time I dynoed at 293 to the wheel and 290 torque, but that was actually with 248s, you know, the S13 exhaust, 248 and then a stock S14 exhaust, because I was kind of testing a few things. Quick story on that was I had a small intercooler, so I didn't want to cut the bumper. And it took me 6 months to find out that small intercooler was actually messing up my flow for power. I was down on power because of that intercooler. So took that off, put a bigger one on, and boom, I got 290 with those cams. I haven't dynoed yet with the 264s, but I'm assuming if I'm 290 with the 248, I'm probably around 300 with the 264. But we'll find out. That was kind of my goal, is 300 wheel. But anyway, so I think I hit everything. Again, big questions for PCV, coolant lines, blow-off valve, the manifold. I recommend it, but remember you need to carve away the mount. And it really didn't mess up anything with my down pipe. I have the ISR elbow and another mid pipe. But that's it. Hopefully this helps somebody out, answer some questions, and you know, good data for someone for their project. Thanks.